Well, we're always glad to see you. And we miss your dad's bus tours.
Yes, I heard they're a lot of fun.
You never went?
I went the first time I was teaching and a lot of stuff when I was in school. So I was able to go to the past something. It was a lot of fun.
Little Nevada history there. You got to have that. Yeah.
I need a map. Are you rebellious? Because I suggest you join the Rotary. Yeah. We're talking about the meeting. My wife, dog, and 11 months drove back to Georgia and North Carolina, Georgia. So we drove back there in October and we drove back and got on Sunday. So I'm still about 4:30. I'm like wide awake. By 8, I'm like, oh, yeah, gone. Yeah. I think I'm gonna go home actually. Yeah. No. Yeah. I was like, now that sounds like a black.
Did you go?
No, was it fun? Well, I bought a Groupon on curling lessons that we haven't redeemed yet. But were you games that we're watching curling and we're like, this is fascinating. And the sports shit, it just seems like what's the play with that? Like two guys throwing rocks. Yeah. If that's how it's expected,
No, Stu. I always worry that you're gonna when I get done. Yeah. send an email or a text to somebody saying, we couldn't hear, we couldn't see, we couldn't. Oh, well. Hey, we're doing the best we can. I don't know. We just come in, plug the HDMI. So one HDMI right in would be well, it looks like they've got that's at least piggyback on what they've already done. Probably just there we have. And bring it out up through the front. Yeah. Next week, Mark Fine. Yep. So, like a Dropbox. You have my home email. Send it. Yeah, I get. I got so much security that I go through on that. Yes, thank you. I'm not even in there. Here, yeah.
I'm going to ask Mike Mewborn to come up and introduce our speaker a few minutes early today. He'll be really interesting. And then we'll have time to do the presentation of the cans after he speaks. So, Mike.
Thank you, Madam President. That always helps. Hey, everybody. Y'all remember me? I didn't think so. All right. Well, there might be a handful of you out there, but it's great to see all the smiling faces again. Kiwanians and Rotarians working together, changing the world, making it a better place. So thank you very much. Luckily, we have a speaker today. He is tremendous, and he'll tell you that. We were just talking over at the table over there, and he was just telling us how great he is and how great this presentation was going to be. And you're going to know because he's done a lot of stuff. He's a former Navy guy, so he's a trusty shipmate. But he's been with the FBI, the Nevada State Police, Highway Patrol, Division of Patrol, Division of Parole and Probation, Fire Marshal. Anyway, lots of stuff. But most importantly, one of the things that he did that he's going to talk about today is the time that he went undercover to infiltrate the mob. So without further ado, and more superlatives, our fantastic, amazing speaker. Mr. George Tagliati. No pressure, though.
Jeez. Better keep an eye on the clock. Yeah, but what an introduction. Thank you so much. That's it. Happy Thanksgiving. Yeah. Well, when I was invited to speak, they asked for the bio, and I said, well, what do you want me to talk about? I mean, I can talk about state police. I can talk about, I'm probably one of the few guys in the governor's cabinet, a bunch of different cabinets where I've worked for both the D and an R. So there's a few things I can kind of chat about. A little closer? Okay. I work for both the D and an R. I try to stay apolitical, but I do know a little bit about what's going on in our state right now. But because it's your 100th and 90th, something like that, 100th and 90th anniversary, maybe it'd be better if I talk about a couple of years that I spent working with the mob in Las Vegas. What do you think? Okay, so I'll do that one. Long ago and far away, when I first entered the FBI, I had just did normal FBI stuff, and then somebody ran into me in an inspection and realized my name ended in a vowel. So in those days, they said, well, what are you doing regular stuff? You should be working these Italians and doing stuff like that. So when I was in Detroit, which everybody had to do a big office time, they sent me to some training, and I discussed with the good doctor over here. They didn't give you any psychological training, but they did give us a fair amount of training on certain techniques of how you do this and how you do that. But basically, they look for people. I'm half Irish, so you have some blarney, and my name ends in a vowel. So you're full of baloney, and they think you can infiltrate somebody, and that's kind of how it went. I was, at being a former Navy pilot, I also flew about 700 hours for the Bureau as a collateral duty. So why is that important? Well, they sent me to Zales in New York City. Anybody familiar with Zales? And I went to jewelry school. It's all right, but any jewelers in here? Ah, okay. It wasn't like I could really know my stuff. What they were concerned with is I'd buy the wrong stuff because I was buying stolen jewelry. So I'd basically fly into a place and get out, and bad guys would be there, and I'd be very impressed to see somebody show up in an airplane. I had a loop. That's the thing, right? And I'd sit there and I'd buy the stuff and so on and so forth. So that worked out pretty well. Then I transitioned to work a bigger case involving General Motors in Flint, Michigan, Genesee County, where we were stealing Chevy Tahoes off the assembly line. And my cover was as a junkyard dealer, which nowadays would be a scrap metal or something, but in those days you could get away with saying you had a junkyard in Pennsylvania. Once again, I'd fly in, so it's the degree of legitimacy there that, hey, this guy's coming from somewhere else, do my thing, and then I'd go home at night. And in every one of these undercover deals, I'd go home at night. But in this particular case, one day I'm with the guy who's one of my targets doing these thefts. And he stops at the district attorney's office, and I figured, okay, that's it. My party's over. And I used to carry these electronic devices, not like today where you could really secrete them quite well. These suckers were about like a large Hershey bar. So you can only imagine where you put that. So anyway, we go into the DA's office, and he goes in, and I'm thinking, hey, what's this about? And he comes out and says, hey, come on, I want you to meet this guy. I go meet the district attorney. And he seemed like a real nice guy, and we leave. And I said, geez, what the heck are you doing with this district attorney in Genesee County? He says, I'm a snitch. No big thing. But he's got a bit of a problem because, he's kind of attributing about $5 grand a month to me. And I says, you getting the money? He says, hell no, I don't get the money. He keeps the money. So I said, really? By this time, I've already switched the thing on. I'm kind of leaning forward. And he spills his guts. He's got to go to a grand jury and he's got to testify and so forth. Absolute luck that we put the Genesee County prosecuting the district attorney in jail. You better to be lucky than good. And I learned that a long time ago. So I got a phone call. I'm going real fast here because I know I have some timing issues. But I got a phone call say, hey, we need pilots to go to either New Orleans or Las Vegas. And I said, okay, give me the first one that opens. And that's how I wound up here. And after about 2 weeks, I got a phone call to say, hey, we need you to do a little undercover stuff for us. And, you know, I was used to doing, again, coming home at night, I had a wife, 2 kids, simple stuff, you know, dope buys, whatever. I mean, these things, believe me, doesn't take a brain surgeon to do this kind of stuff. And they said, okay, we've got this Italian feast coming to town, and we need a guy whose name isn't a vowel to go in there and meet the principals and find out what they're doing. And there's some Gambino people that are doing this, one of the 5 families out of New York. Long story short, I had a great informant, a great snitch, who's a big dope dealer out of Miami. He's still around today, I think. And we just hit it off. 2 weeks of just rocking and rolling and doing my thing and just trying to be nice. And everybody gets ready to break this thing up. I said, hey, could you kind of work and do some stuff for us while we're gone and kind of hang out in Vegas? Because we can. So I said, yeah, okay. Long story short, I wound up staying a little bit longer than I thought. So 2 weeks turned out to be in excess of 2 years, closer to 2.5 years. So you can just imagine how that plays in Vegas in the 1980s. Even though I had a different name, you still had a wife and 2 kids, and you can just imagine the issues that started up. As we progressed, basically what I was doing is hustling slot machines. So I put slot machines in different hotels and get about, in those days, about $700 kickback per machine. And we'd give it to, you know, my guy, my godfather. A lot of stuff happened. You wind up getting involved in just a ton more activities. And as we had mentioned, you don't really get a lot of psych work as far as, hey, how's he doing under there? I'd meet my contact maybe once a month, and they take all my paperwork, the cocktail napkins, you name it, and recordings that I may have, so that I could memorialize all the different various meetings, any kind of evidence I may have. And I was living at the Las Vegas Country Club. So lo and behold, came a time where I said, hey, this isn't going to work. I can't keep doing this because my marriage is going down the toilet. I don't want to lose my family. And they said, well, again, a different bureau, a different time. They said, well, you got to. We need you to do this because we're going to open up a casino in Laughlin. At that time, it was, I think it's still there, the Edgewater. And it would also help if you help the Detroit family who are coming in town. Work with the Detroit family and open the Edgewater Hotel in Laughlin. So long story short, divorce, talked to the agent in charge. I said, I'll tell you what, my family's done, I'm done. I'll do this on one condition, that you don't transfer when my time is up. And I got a promise from a guy, I don't know if somebody remembers the name of Joe Yablonsky, was the agent in charge at the time. And he was the king of Sting, so he loved undercover agents and blah, blah, blah. So he made the deal with me and he kept his word. I go down to Laughlin, did some work for the Detroit family, and as luck would have it, you know, greed always runs deep. There's just a matter of time before you're going to start running into some problems where people are stealing from one another, backstabbing one another, even among the families. So lo and behold, we had a little bit of an argument over money. And the Detroit guy said to me, we need you to come back. You're going to come with me to Detroit and you got to settle this because the Gambino is screwing us and we want to do so-and-so. I couldn't do that. I couldn't get on a plane and go to Detroit. My undercover background would not stand any type of scrutiny outside of Vegas, as you can imagine. You know, like, who did you know? How did you meet this? If it get cornered in some situation, I'm going to be out of luck. So one of the things they do teach you is what your limitations could be. And again, that was part of it. You can't do this and you can't do that. So those were some of the warning signs. I go back to the office and say, hey, this thing is starting to go south on us. Lo and behold, I had an issue with a manager who decides to introduce another informant because they wanted to expand it even further to try to get into different areas of some of the casino operations that were going on. And this guy and I did not get along. Maybe just a personality conflict. In fact, one funny story that somebody always asked me to tell them is that he had a house, nice house on, anybody know Pinehurst on the country club? They have a house there. And I come home one time. Oh, I did get, which was tough to introduce into this. In a divorce, I got the golden retriever. Now, I don't know if you ever know a mob guy that had a golden retriever. Pit bull, okay. Golden retriever, a little tough to bring into the scenario. But one time, the golden retriever went potty in his house. He was irritated. And we had a little confrontation. He says to me, you know what? When I come into town, I want you to help set up the house. I'm thinking, who is this guy? And when I go in the pool, I like to get off the plane, go in a spa, and there's ducks are all over the place, and the ducks are leaving their droppings. So we, do something about that. I says, hey, his name was Harvey. I says, hey, Harvey, no problem. I'll handle it. So when I knew he was coming in last time, I got a loaf of bread, went out in the backyard, and just started slinging bread out in the swimming pool. So Harvey and I didn't bond well. And the moral of the story is, I'll really fast forward. One day, 2.5 years into it, I get a phone call from the office, and they said, you got to get out, you got to surface now. I said, what happened? Turned out that there was a meeting in Toledo, Ohio, between some people in the Cleveland family and also the Detroit family. And they mentioned that if you have a guy who's under using that name that I was using at the time with this guy Harvey, he's an FBI agent. So that was kind of the end of the operation. I took the opportunity because Yablonsky was that kind of guy. I said, I got to make it up with my contact in Gambino because he's the guy I use and abuse to get all of the information I had. And I did not testify against him, which gives me a break as far as threats with the Gambinos. I did testify against the Detroit family, the boss, the underboss, and 2 couples. But it kind of cleaned me up with the Gambinos at the time. When we sat down at the Dunes Hotel, if everybody remembers the Dunes Hotel, he said to me, I said, Jimmy, I got to tell you, I'm an FBI agent. And he goes, yeah, I knew it. I said, what do you mean you knew it? Been with you for 2.5 years, you don't know. And he says, you're too good. I could tell you you're too good, which is not necessarily true. But his wife is ready to come over, and I said, can I tell your wife, can I tell Rose? And he says, don't tell her, it's going to break her heart. So I looked at him and I said, hey, Jimmy, it's been tough. It's 2.5 years. We did Thanksgiving. We did Christmas. When I was single, I dated within his family. And you really turn into someone else. So it was, he turned to me and said, you know what? You're the son I never had. So you can imagine the psychological effects of whatever. So I go back in the office, and this is why I wanted to tell you this story. This is how we come full circle. They said, we're going to stick you somewhere in a safe house just to make sure that nobody whacks you between now and whatever. So they set me up on a street called Turf Circle near the Muni Golf Course, just north of Washington. Anybody familiar with that area? So I go in this house. There wasn't much in it. It was a mattress and maybe 1 or 2 chairs. And any idea who owned the house? Was a friend of the Bureau, Governor Kenny Gwynn. And in the house was this ugly looking, in the garage was this ugly looking 4-door pea green Chrysler. And they said, don't touch the car. That belongs to a friend of Kenny's. That's Jim Marsh. Where is it? So that's a long way around that story about getting involved with Jim and how I didn't really meet Jim until later on, and actually went to work for Kenny Gwynn as director of the Department of Public Safety. And I'm not sure we ever had that conversation before then, that I had once lived in a house he had rented. And eventually, I was only there for about 2 or 3 months, and then he sold it, and I went back into my regular life and stayed here in Vegas. People ask me, I said, well, you know, how was that? It was actually cool when you went to a couple of Italian restaurants with the 10% didn't get the word. So all I did was walk in there and immediately it's like one of these, and they give you a nice table. So I kind of abused the fact that people thought I was still in the mob. It never, you know, was something to do. It did affect, people said, well, they did send me to a shrink at the very end, no offense. And it was some guy in LA to just know how many fingers my whole love. And so I passed all that and come back. I was blessed to be able to stay here and not leave my family. And that was the most important part for me. Because in the Bureau of Rules, you know, go back to your other name, boom, go anywhere you want, what they call an office of preference transfer. So I could have been, you know, living high anywhere I wanted to go. So that's kind of the story there. I want to leave time for questions. I didn't get into any of the gory details of what we were doing as far as skimming. We're skimming in hotels. I got some loan sharking stories and some other good stuff. One grisly murder. But I want to talk about today. We're going through a transition. We got a new governor. And I'm going to list you guys as far as any help you may have with the Nevada legislature. Because it looks like I'm going to be also working for the new governor as well as presently Governor Sisolak. And I got a budget that's really important to us that's coming up, and it has to get through the legislature starting next January. Right now, if you can see in the bio, if you didn't fall asleep reading the bio, we've got highway patrol, parole and probation, which is important, right? This is not juvenile, but adult. The Nevada State Police with major investigators, and fire marshal, Office of Traffic Safety, Office of Criminal Justice Administration, which is all the federal grants that come in from law enforcement that we give to Metro and Henderson and a lot of people in the rurals. Records management, for any of you that want to buy your 15th gun and need to get a background check, you go through us, and then you complain that it takes too long. And there's a reason for that, because we're limited by FBI rules. It's a long, sad story, but we turn out to be the bad guys. We have about 300 employees that just do that, nothing but records, whether it's your casino license or whatever. And we're the ones that send all that stuff back and forth to Washington. 2 police academies, one in the north, one in the south. And then I mentioned the fire marshal, which is also a sworn position. Going forward, I'm going to be involved with the transition team on law enforcement, corrections, which candidly is a mess, and public safety. So if any of you have any ideas and want to contact me, by all means, let me know. It's going to be an interesting task for the next legislature. But right now, just to give you an idea, if you look at the overall feeling of defund the police or whatever that atmosphere is out there nationwide, recruiting is really tough. Fewer and fewer people want to be involved in law enforcement. That's one. If you look at the state of Nevada, we sit here and we say, well, why would you and the state police and highway patrol and parole and probation have some problems? Well, we don't get paid the same amount as Metro, Henderson, Northtown, you name it. In fact, probably one of, if not, I don't know about White Pine County and Ely, but I think we're the lowest paid. That's the first problem. We also have a retirement program that I couldn't believe. At least when you're a Fed, and I retired from the FBI, you're in maybe 5 years, that's pretty much locked. 5, 6 years, you're going to stay because it's in your financial best interest to kind of hang out. You don't just bounce around. Here in the state of Nevada, they got this system called PERS. Great system, no offense. But everybody's in PERS. But if you're in Metro, your PERS is different than if you're with me, with the Department of Public Safety. So even when I go to hire somebody, if I say, hey, you're going to be making maybe X number of dollars less to start, I got to be honest with you and say, you're also going to contribute to your retirement plan, which means your take-home pay is going to be less, big chunk taken out, right? Well, Metro doesn't have it. Henderson doesn't have it. Northtown doesn't have it. So when you say there's a disparity between pay, oh yeah, not only that, but also that retirement program. It costs about $100 plus for me to run somebody through a complete academy to become a Category 1 police officer. And all of those divisions I just told you about, including the fire marshal and parole and probation, they're all Category 1, just as Metro is a Category 1. That's a valuable ticket to have, a valuable label. So in about 100, maybe 120,000 for me to put you through a full academy. So if I'm in Metro and I'm going to recruit, who am I going to recruit? Just not somebody off the street. I might as well try to get that guy from NHP. I'm losing people to the school police, which amazed me because of all the jobs in the world, the last thing I want is some 6-year-old to diss me going into the school, right? But the benefits of the school police are better than your state police. Again, same retirement. So I can stay in one place for 19 and a half years and decide to switch and do my last 6 months of say 20 years, or if I want to go 25 with another agency. The only good news is a lot of the folks that have left us said, if you could just get some parity, we'll be more than happy to come back. We want to come back. We like the job. We like this and that. I do attract more people in parole and probation because there's a certain group out there in the newer generations, younger generations rather, who really want to be involved in more of a social work type approach, where not only can they be doing law enforcement, but then also get home at night and say, hey, guess what? I think I turned that person's life around. I think I gave them a bit of a help. But there's some things in my budget right now that, oh, and one other thing. The people that other agencies take from us are the best of the best because they work with them. So if we have 5 people over there and 2 are schlubs, they're not going to mess with the people who they don't want. They're only going to take the best. So now I find myself, I promoted somebody to be major in the Elko area. I had 1 applicant. Good guy. I'm glad I got him. And, but I only had 1 person. I just had the lady that runs my P&P office at 50 years old retire. And it's just like, boom, it hits you. So who do I have left? And we're getting really thin on people that have experience. I've got some great people, but if you want to promote real fast, come work for me, not Metro, because we have lots and lots of openings. So it's mainly Robin Peters and Pay Paul. Interesting times. Going forward in the next legislative session, one of the things I forgot to mention that we also have that desperately needs attention is that we have cyber defense. I used to have cyber defense and emergency management. I gave up, I wanted to give up emergency management, move it to the National Guard when COVID hit. We just did not have the bodies to be able to support the effort for various vaccinations and vaccination places where the Guard certainly has that ability. If you ever went and got your shots at places where you saw the National Guard, I don't have that many troopers. I can't put all my troopers in those places. So it's not like I was a genius. That's the Arizona model of how they operate emergency management. I also teach at the graduate school at UNLV on crisis management and emergency management. So some of the ideas I got from UNLV. We got a good project going in the budget next time, which is called Safe Strip. I hope to get on. It's going to be in my budget, but it's going to make Vegas a think tank for having any kind of group operations or group parties, any kind of Super Bowls, any kind of Formula Ones, Democratic National Conventions, those type of things, where anyone around the world, particularly within the United States, would come here and check with the university and say, hey, this is our think tank. You got PhDs involved, you got law enforcement involved, you got the industry involved, all the various resorts. And we're gonna hope to get that baby off the ground sometime this coming summer. We're also gonna have a day reporting center that I did have. We need to do more to address people that are coming out of prisons as far as transition, because I'm pretty worried about the recidivism rate that I see going up. And if we don't address that, we're gonna have some problems. And there's some things that we're going to have to address as a legislature, as a new governor, that aren't as popular politically, like throwing some money at the prisons that are in need of repair in a lot of areas. Just the brick and mortar needs repair. They have a hiring problem worse than mine as to who they're going to get to go in there and work at the prison. So there's just a lot to be done. And anything you can do to support us, any juice you have with the coming legislature, keep us in mind, because it's a pay me now or pay me later. So if I get any questions, anybody would have.
George, I think what I'll do first, thank you for your sacrifices for all the years of service that you've given to all of us. Appreciate that, and for coming to talk with us. If you could go back to your undercover days, what was probably the most concerned time you might have had? If you could share maybe a little bit of that, when you maybe thought you were
What time?
the most concerned you had for your own safety during any of those times.
Yeah, there were a couple of little ones. I mean, I remember one time we were at a bar and we're drinking and partying and doing all kinds of foolish stuff. And I was going out into the back of the bar and I'd take a line of Coke, I put it on a Marlboro box, and then I'd have a little pipe. I'd take it, put my thumb like this, right? And I, pretend I was doing this and that, which went well till about 3-4 hours into it. And I realized everybody else has really got their stuff together. I'm the only guy that's fallen down stupid, sloppy drunk. So if somebody would put that together, that this guy is not using the drugs that everybody else is using, because I couldn't, and I still haven't. That was something that, which is ironic. I'm on a cannabis commission. I've never used cannabis. That's the legislature's idea. The people had asked me, were you ever worried about your life? The pressure that you had, and it was pretty strong. I was afraid of screwing up. And every day and every month that went on, the longer I was in it, if you screwed it up, it would be what I would face when I went back into the office and dealt with the other agents that, hey, you just ruined 18 months of this, or you just did this. What have you done for me lately? You've been driving your Cadillacs and hanging out here and doing this and that. So yeah, that was the biggest concern. More pressure to perform.
Thank you. Questions? Anyone? In the room? Back here? There we go. Look.
You spoke at length about the casinos and the mob activities, and the newspaper basically says that the mob's not involved with the casinos anymore, which could be disputed based upon the union's activities with all the casinos. But that aside, what is your take on the casino both here and in Laughlin?
Oh, when we were doing our thing, we're talking in the 1980s, different world. We had, and so distrust among law enforcement, where, for example, when I was in Detroit, I came out on a 1-month trip just to follow some people around at the Aladdin Hotel because we didn't trust the agents who were in Las Vegas. And it was kind of paranoid times, wild times. I think that's changed. And when people ask me, what is the mob's influence? It slowly, between gaming control and the various RICO investigations, racketeering, corrupt organization investigations, the level of mob influence went down. So now maybe the mob guy come out and get a couple of free room, a couple of free meals, but the skim isn't there. The skim wasn't there. Before when I was doing the skim out of Laughlin, I mean, we've taken, if it had cash, we took it. I remember taking the money out of the cigarette machines. That's how bad it was. And then falsifying a lot of documents and things like that. That answer.
George, thank you so much. Don't go away. I'd like to give you our Soul Power Award, which represents a pair of shoes to a needy child in your name. Thank you. Thank you. And now, do you have the numbers? Okay.
All right. Well, before we do anything, I want to say that you did it. You all did it. I've only been part of the club for a few years now, and so I don't know all the numbers dating back to years before, but since I've been here, this is first off, the largest amount that's been collected in the time that I've been here. So huge hand to the Rotary and Kiwanis Club. So exciting. I'm drawing this out, right? The suspense is maddening. Here is the trophy that I keep in my office, and I look proudly at it. And last year, for the first year and many of those years, the Kiwanis Club took the lead, and their name sits right here on this plaque for 2021. So we're really excited. I just want to recognize last year's winners. And then I want to say, wow, I'm a little conflicted because I started out, my first service club was with the Kiwanis Club in South San Francisco. And I've been a Rotarian ever since then. Not for any particular, no booze, stop it. Amazing clubs all around. It was more about proximity and availability. But I am a proud Rotarian today. And I want to say that this competition was so close. Just to give you an idea, what separated the two clubs, Rotary from Kiwanis this year, was 8,127 cans, or the equivalent of $260. That's the difference between the two. I know, I was blown away. Together, it was just under 40 grand total that was raised by both clubs. Really proud of this moment, so thankful. And I'll give you the winner, and then I'll say one last thing. So can we get a drum roll, please? Winner for the 2022 Can Food Drive for the competition between Rotary and Kiwanis Club is the Rotary Club. The Rotary Club. So excited by, again, $260 or 8,127 cans. The last statement I wanted to say was just thank you. Everybody's efforts. A big thank you to Barbara. Just linked us up with the schools, did a lot of work to make this happen within our club. I'm blown away. And I have to tell you that it's not just feeding families at Thanksgiving and at Christmas. We use this food and we feed families well beyond the holidays. And in fact, we continue doing this work throughout the year, every year. There's folks in this room who volunteer with Salvation Army that have given of their time consistently. I think specifically about Green Valley, the Kiwanis Club there that just give constantly. They're probably at the office more than I am. And I'm really thankful for what they give. But thank you to everybody. The real winners, I know somebody mentioned Salvation Army. We are just the vessel to help the families out there. The winners are the families. We get to give grace to them, not just now, but all year long. Thank you for everything you did to contribute to this. This is amazing. Another big hand for both clubs. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Kiwanis, for joining us, and meeting adjourned.